Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's frequency meditation. And as just everyone starts to settle in, tonight there's going to be something we're going to feel that most people have experienced many times, though very few have actually seen it clearly while it's happening, like a blind spot, because it tends to move quietly, almost underneath awareness. But it shapes decisions, timing, and directions in ways that can actually change the whole course of a life, which we've seen. And what we're looking at, it's not a sex in the way it's usually talked about. It's not behavior, it's not morality, it's not stories about what should or should not happen, but something far more precise and far more interesting, really, which is the moment that energy rises inside the system and what happens to a person's position when that occurs, because that is where everything begins to shift. Let's just take a nice deep breath in. Really feel that air coming into your lungs, so you're settling into your body right here, right now. Reduces your filter so you're able to absorb the frequencies tonight. So if we look across history, across relationships, across leadership, across private lives that no one else ever sees, the same pattern keeps appearing again and again, where someone who's otherwise clear, grounded, capable, responsible, begins to move from a slightly different place. It doesn't happen through one dramatic event. It happens through a series of very small shifts that feel completely reasonable in the moment, and each of those shifts is connected to something very simple, which is that the energy rises and the person moves with it rather than remaining where they are. They get hijacked. And so tonight, as we just take another breath in, noticing you in your body right now, just this moment of time, you've arrived, if you like. So tonight is about feeling that directly, not as an idea, but as something you can recognize in your own system in real time. Because once it's felt clearly, the whole dynamic begins to make sense in a very grounded and practical way. As we are witnessing right now, incredibly powerful, creative, intelligent individuals have destroyed their lives because of this energy. And again, it's not about the particular act, it's the energy, that frequency that moves them, shifts their perspective. And so they're not in control. And that's what we'll do tonight. We'll take back control with awareness. So as everyone arrives, just let the body settle exactly as it is. Let the room be exactly as it is. And let the week be exactly as it has been. Nothing needs to change in order to see this. And in a moment, we're simply going to bring attention into the center of our sphere, that part behind the eyes, and allow the system to show something that has always been happening, just with a level of clarity that most people never actually pause long enough to notice. Without that clarity, we're very disempowered. It's easy for us to get off our mark, to get, as I mentioned before, hijacked into another reality. And then do things that we truly know is not our authentic self. Again, this isn't a moral discussion we're having here. It's about not being in control. So you create yourself here from that authentic self, not from some energies that pull you into a different direction. So coming into the center of our sphere, that point behind our eyes, is that quiet point where you can notice the body, the space around you, and the movement inside you at the same time. And even from here right now, there's already a slight widening in how things are perceived. Maybe a little bit more space, a little less urgency, a little more room for things to simply be seen as they are. So from this center point, just drop down through the body, through the spine, those 33 vertebrae, noticing as much detail as you can. The spine, the vertebrae, the space between each vertebrae, the texture. Maybe walk around your spine in the mind's eye. This is your transmitter. It's your receiver. It's much more than just a skeleton keeping you upright, mobile. As we continue down, whatever body part is touching the ground right now, connect with that. And then just drop down right into the Earth's frequencies, these pure frequencies that have filtered through gravity for billions of years. We have access to them. It's in the same density as us. And then just bring, as we take a deep breath in, just like we're siphoning all these frequencies right up through our body, through our spine, back to our sphere. Just stay here right now in your sphere. It's the clearest point for you to be. Just from this position, allow the idea of attraction to be present in a very simple way. Not something dramatic, just sense of being, if you like, drawn towards someone. Or remembering a moment where that pull was there. And as that appears, notice what happens in the body before anything else forms around it. There's always a shift, and it's often very subtle. Though once you feel it, you realize that it's been there every time. It can feel like a slight leaning forward in the system, or a brightness in the chest or face, or maybe perhaps a tightening somewhere in the body. There's a quickening in the way attention gathers around a single point. And what matters here is not the intensity of it, but the fact that something has changed. Because this is the moment where the entire dynamic begins. And if you stay with that, without following the story, without moving into imagination, just feeling the physical and energetic shift itself, you begin to notice that the energy is simply a current moving through the system. And at the same time, there's a second movement, which is the system beginning to orientate towards that current. Noticing you and your whole body right now, centered. Again, coming back to the sphere, that center point behind the eyes. So that orientation is the key. Because as the energy rises, the body and the mind begin to move in a very, well, it begins to move in very specific ways. Our attention narrows. One person or one possibility becomes more important than the wider field of your life. Time starts to feel compressed. And what might normally be obvious becomes slightly less visible. And none of this feels dramatic while it's happening. It feels compelling. It feels engaging. It feels like something worth moving towards. And that is exactly why it is so powerful. But if you remain in the center of your sphere while this is happening, you can feel something very precise, which is that the current can be present without your position changing. And that distinction is freedom, is taking back control. That distinction is everything. Because one is the energy itself, and the other is where you are in relationship to it. Let's just let settle in for you right now. And before the first transmission, let's let your spine lengthen slightly. Allow the whole body to be included beneath the center of our sphere, so the energy becomes part of a wider field rather than something that defines the field. We'll just stay here and just observe. Observe how that inner environment is shifting right now for you. Things are quieter. There's more space. There's a clarity that will come in for you. Notice your breath, your posture, you in your body right now. Just remain with the center of our sphere. As this transmission moves and lets the current of the energy move through the body while your position stays steady. From here you can feel the difference between being inside the energy and being able to hold the energy inside something larger. It's really very simple recognition. It begins to land. And it's that the difficulty has never been the strength of the energy itself, that pull, that attraction. It's been the moment where a person shifts their position from centered and begins to move from the charge rather than remaining where they are. I mentioned it's like they get hijacked into another reality. They lose control. And again, we could look around the world today and even go back in history. Individuals, they lose control. Something pulls them, an energy pulls them into another version of themselves that's not their authentic version. And when this happens, the system reorganizes around the energy. And that's when we have these small changes in perception beginning to stack. And they might feel natural at the time, and we certainly have enough backlog of messages saying what you feel is your truth, is your authentic self. Own it, be proud of it. But is it? Look at the destruction this frequency has caused. Individual people and society. The harm. So it might feel natural at the time, and this is how people slowly move away from what they would recognize as their clearer self, without ever feeling like they made one single obvious mistake. So we're going to break that for you. Another breath in. You can recognize this in everyday life. Kind of like in a way a message can change your state almost instantly. You get a negative email first thing in the morning. Boom. Shift. Or the way attention can become fixed on one person, and while everything else fades slightly into the background. People who have codependency could connect with this very strongly. Or maybe the way something that would normally feel insignificant, it begins to carry more weight. And so what we're doing now is feeling the beginning of that movement, just without being carried by it. And that alone changes everything. Because once you can feel the beginning of the shift, the rest of the pattern becomes visible in a very grounded and practical way. You take back control. So before we pause again, I'll let the second transmission come in and just allow the body to settle deeper into support. Let the spine become a pathway through which the energy can move rather than something that tightens around it. Dropping all judgment. Energy compounds. Electrifies. If there's judgment, shame, if there's a connection to it, if we're defining ourselves, oh, this is who I am. No, it's not. It's a frequency. So we take back control. Just Just notice what comes into your field. And in the silence, again, bring to mind something that has pulled you, an attraction, a person. The adrenaline spikes. Notice the frequency and stay centered. Mhm. And as this transmission moves, just feel the current rise through the body, travel upwards through the spine, return to the center of our sphere, center point behind the eyes. And from here, that same energy that once pulled attention outward begins to move into clarity and presence instead. And as this stabilizes, another layer becomes visible. And which is what it feels like attraction is often carrying more than just the other person. Because within that pull, that attraction, there could also be a sense of wanting to feel more alive, more seen, more chosen, more expressed. And all of that can gather into one single experience. It feels very real, very convincing. But when you remain steady, you start to feel what belongs to the situation and what belongs to your own system. And as that distinction becomes clear, the urgency begins to soften and the position returns naturally. This is how we take back control. It's not that the current or the energy is so overpowering. It's that we just simply don't have the awareness of the mechanics on how this energy can pull you off your mark. So we bring in the awareness. And for those of you who do have a tendency to be pulled off your mark, through sexual energy, or it can expand into attraction. It can expand into codependent dynamics. I can help you be more than just this meditation here. But this is the start. And a very significant start of bringing awareness into what you have somewhat passively been participating in, most probably for decades, lifetimes for many of you. So let's take another breath in. Let the whole body settle into a single coherent field where the energy is included rather than leading. Mm-hmm. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what's coming into your field of awareness. Notice how maybe instead of that perspective of, well, this is who I am, and this is something that I've always been aware that has me lose control. The shame, the disempowerment, the confusion. The adrenaline peaks that pretends to be your authentic self. Observe if there's another perspective coming in. One that empowers you. Where you're in a position that you're stable, that you observe these energies, but from your center, you feel your entire system stabilize, so the current of sexual energy and your position exist together inside one coherent field. You're solid. And from here, there's no need to push the energy away or move towards it because it becomes part of a larger organization, a larger field that includes clarity, presence, steadiness at the same time. Breathing in. And what becomes clear in this space is something very simple and very practical, and which is that the same force that can narrow perception and pull someone off their path, it can also deepen presence, strengthen character, and bring a sense of warmth, creativity, when it's held inside a stable system. And this isn't something that you need to learn or to achieve. It's something that becomes available the moment position remains steady while intensity is present. So it's to practice, to get familiar with the dynamics, and it's to take back control. And again, I'm not talking about the actual sexual variety, the act. This isn't a moral transmission. It's irrelevant what flavor the attraction comes in. It's the energy that pulls you off your mark. So once you become centered, taking back control, your perspective will shift. And whatever is there that's not your true authentic self will become very clear. And those energies that are not will lose its power. First, it loses its power at a frequency level, then the mind catches up. So we don't need to give away, like, our inner seat to that charge. That charge can either magnify confusion or magnify dignity, depending on the structure it enters. And I'll do another meditation on this, another transmission, because we can also look at attraction. What we think is who we are, what we think is our authentic self, even if it's covered in shame. Attraction often carries layers of projection, longing, memory, unlit vitality. It's not quite so simple as we think. Now we take back control. We stay connected to that wholer version of yourself while this intensity is present. I'll leave everybody here. You can listen to this meditation again. And if you have any questions, or if there's some of you out there that this has been, which there is, I can see that this has been a point that has caused you great pain, suffering, disempowerment, then you can reach out to me separately. And with that, I hope everybody has a beautiful week ahead.